how many people have ever felt lucky? Okay. How many people would consider themselves lucky people? Okay. Mostly? Okay. Very cool. One of the things that we talk about a lot is, some people just kind of, everything they touch turns to gold. Don't you just fucking hate those people? All right? There's some people in life that are the schlep rocks of the world. You guys know who schlep rock? If you know who schlep rock is, you are fucking old, okay? I'm just going to tell you that right now, but it's true. Couple of disclaimers before we get started. My name is David Snyder. Most of you know who I am. This is NLP Power / NLP today. If I'm talking way too fast, it's because the drugs have kicked in. And I want to get playful. I want to have a good time because we need to in order to manifest and to use the law of attraction. See, one of the things that people haven't told you, even though they told you, was that in order to manifest using the law of attraction, you have to have a frequency that is in harmony with your dominant thoughts, that is also in harmony with the things that you want. Here's the problem. They didn't tell you what that actually meant when they talk about frequency, and they didn't tell you what your dominant thoughts actually were. Motherfuckers. Right? Because they made you buy all these books, told you put all these cool pictures on the board, and then what? Nothing. Right? I'm going to teach you a couple of very, very simple but powerful tweaks. But that's actually not even where we're supposed to go tonight. Tonight I'm going to teach you something that if we can install these in you tonight, or at least give you the road to begin, you will start attracting more and more and more lucky events and opportunities, whether they're financial, professional, romantic, it won't matter. It will sensitize you and it will change how you move through the world so that as you move through the world, your neurology will literally call your attention to opportunities and situations and events that give you more of what you want. And a lot of times, as long as you're willing to do whatever it takes, you won't need to.
That's why I want to get out of here today.
Okay.
Exactly what you said.
Right. But the secret to that piece is the willingness to do whatever it takes. Because until you're willing to do the 27 steps necessary to get from point A to the end result, the universe will not manifest the shortcuts. That's the test. I'm making a metaphor. It's okay, there's not 27. But the first thing we have to do is we have to get playful. We got to, how many people can feel good for no friggin' reason? Okay, the rest of you are deep shit. All right, everybody stand up. Okay? Now, here's one of the secrets, first and foremost. Everything that human beings do, every single thing that human beings do is because of a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. Follow me? How does this relate to the law of attraction? Well, it has everything to do with the law of attraction. Because remember I talked about the law of attraction tells us that you will attract things into your life that are in harmony with the frequency you step out to the universe. If your frequency is high, the things you attract tend to be much more beneficial. Well, guess what? The higher the frequency, the more pleasure you feel. The more joyful you become, the more playful you are. Playfulness, joy, happiness, love are higher frequencies than seriousness and rage and frustration. Now, that's almost intuitive, right? Almost intuitive, right? But how do we manage that? The secret is with your body, not your mind. Every single behavior, every single perceptual filter that you have, in other words, how we see the world and experience it around us, is in response to a feeling state in our body. The fastest way to change those filters is to change how we feel. The fastest way to change how we feel is to change how we breathe and how we stand. Now, you don't have to believe me. The science has already been done. Okay? How many people here have ever heard of TED Talks? Okay? How many people here have ever heard of Amy Cuddy? If you haven't, that's your first assignment. When you go home tonight, go to TED. It's a free talk. Pull up Power Poses by Amy Cuddy. Right? It is probably one of the single most powerful videos you will ever watch because of what you're learning here tonight. Okay? Amy Cuddy, C-U-D-D-Y. The video is called Power Poses. So here's what I'd like you to do first and foremost, after you're done writing Amy's name down. A couple of things while we're standing. We already covered this means yes, this means I know the answer, this means I don't, this means oh shit, right? This means yes. This means no. There will be a test. If colorful metaphors, profanity, the word boobies, or provocative languaging offends you, get the fuck out now. Because it's only going to get worse. All right? My intention is not to offend anyone, but to provoke as many people as humanly possible. Because until we provoke you, we don't know where to go. Okay? Now later on I'll tell you, if you're into transpersonal work, I'll teach you why that's important. But for right now, just to get practical, we don't need to know that. Does that make sense? So first and foremost, we got to become masters of our body. I can always tell who's going to get the most change and who's not. Because I'll tell you to do something, I'll say, stand up, and you'll go, I'll say, point to where you feel, you'll go. I'll say, reach out and touch the picture, you'll go. This is not helping. I'm going to suggest that if you want the most benefit out of tonight, A, have fun. Get silly, get crazy. Be playful. Follow the instructions and become little children for a few hours. Get playful. Seriously. Right? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to look immediately to the person to your right, to the person to your left. I want you to stick out your hand. Look him in the eye and go, thank you, sir. Now grab as many human beings as you can and get crazy. Get silly with it. Getting jiggy with it. I'm too silly for myself. Too silly for myself. Too silly. Very good. Excellent. That's much better. Now, I want you to close your eyes for me. How many people have ever been little... open your eyes again real quick. How many people have ever been little children? Raise your hands. All right. If you're not raising your hand, get the fuck out. All right? This is what I mean. Yes, if you have been a little child, raise your hand. How many people, when you were little children... You can raise your hand. It's okay. You can raise two if you believe it, right? How many played pretend as a little kid? What kind of pretend did you play? Everything. Everything. Were you a tomboy or a tom girl? Did you self-identify as both? What's going on?
Yes, reading.
Reading? You self-identified as a reader. All right. How about you, young lady? What did you play pretend at? Yes.
What should I answer?
What would you like? What did you like to play pretend at when you were a little girl?
Tomboy.
Tomboy. You were a tomboy. And did you play cowboys and Indians, soldiers? What did you like to play?
Karate.
Karate. Ooh, I like her already. I have a 9th degree black belt in karate, so I'm good. Right? Here's why I'm asking. Whether you were a tomboy. How many tom girls we have in the room, by the way? No? No. All right. Here's the thing. How many people here played soldiers when they were kids? Superheroes? I'm a geek, so I do weird shit. Right? It's how many fairy princesses we got in the room? How many male fairy princesses we got in the room? It's California, right? You can't admit that? You don't self-identify as a fairy princess? Right. All right. Okay. Whether you played it, whether you were a tomboy or a tom girl, everybody. How many people play with their dolls? Guys? No dolls. All right. How many played with their neighbors' dolls when they weren't looking? No. Okay. All right. Whether you played cowboys and Indians or soldier or superheroes, whether you played doctor or played with your Barbies, or you played tea parties with your stuffed animals. Would you like a little crumpet, Teddy? Right? Right. At some point, you started to use your imagination. You started to pretend. You started to get absorbed and focused in the processes and the experience of playing pretend as a little kid. And maybe when you were out in the backyard and you're picking up your stick and you're going to play soldier or you're going to play cowboys and Indians, the first 5 minutes you picked up the toy gun or the stick, you knew it was a toy gun. You knew it was a toy stick or a stick for the first 5 minutes. But 6.5 minutes later, it's a real M60. You're really Rambo, and there's really bad guys out there and going, da, 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 da. True, not true? Were you asleep? Were you asleep? No. That's a good answer. Were you really, really focused on what you were doing? Were you absorbed in the experience? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can do that tonight, you can have any result you want. Seriously. Playfully seriously. Right? Or how many people, let's talk about another thing, focus. Anybody here know what focus, when I talk about focus, people think we know what that means, right? How many people here have ever seen a movie? Okay, cool. So you know how you walk into the movie, maybe it's a date night or something like that, you got your best girl or best guy on one side, big box of popcorn on the other, and you're wondering which one's going to be more fun, right? You sit in the chair, the lights go down, the curtain opens, this movie starts. Can you tell me at what moment you became completely absorbed in that experience? See, if you could, you're lying to me. It means you weren't absorbed. And those are the things that can derail us tonight. See, there's a part of us that wants to be the smart person. There's a part of us that wants to hang out on the sidelines and evaluate everything. Is it working? Is he full of shit? Am I having the effect? Do I look stupid? Right? If there's a little part of you on the outside going through all those motions, we call that smart person syndrome, by the way. How absorbed in the experience are you? That's right. To the degree that that is happening, you will slow yourself down. To the degree that you let go and just go for it, like when you were a little girl, playing pretend, you will get tremendous change tonight. Now, it's not something I can say lightly in front of a room, half of whom have never met me. But I promise you, you don't have to believe. You just have to follow the instructions. And if you can point to where you feel something in your bodies, you can change it fast if you follow the instructions. Is that okay? So let's feel good for no fucking reason. Everybody, think of a time in your life when you saw something. Now, I'm going to give you a choice. You can go for the best pleasure state ever, which may be a little distracting later on, but that's okay. Or maybe there was a time in your life when you saw something that you really, really, really wanted. And some little switch inside of you clicked, and you said, I'm going to get that. And you made a plan, and you put the plan into operation, and you nailed it. Home run. I want you to remember that moment. I want you to remember that moment when you realize you got it. And I want you to stand the way you were standing in that moment. I want you to breathe the way you were breathing in that moment. I want you to close your eyes as those feelings come flooding back. However it is, it's okay. And notice where in your body you feel it. Okay, watching me isn't going to help. Close your eyes and get into that feeling. Take your hand and point to where you feel it in your body. Notice there's a color connected to that feeling. You don't have to tell me, but notice what's the color, first impression. That's right. As you touch that spot, imagine that floating in the space around you somewhere is a picture that represents that feeling. Reach out with your other hand and touch it. First impression. Excellent. Now take both of your hands. Trace the outline of that picture so you know exactly how big it is. And all I want you to do is grab it with both of your hands, and like you would expand the window on your iPhone or opening a drape, I want you to make it as big as the room without slugging the person next to you. Notice what happens to the feeling in your body. That's what I'm talking about. Now, just for fun, lift it up over your head. Pull it down around you like a big blanket and notice what happens to the feeling now. Perfect. Let it sink in. I'll tell you what this means in just a moment, but just for the sake of our drill, just for the moment, I want you to unwrap it, lift it back up over your head. Now, you guys all know what a frisbee is, right? I want you to imagine this thing is now shaped like a frisbee. I want you to throw it behind you as far away as you can. Whoosh! Notice what happens to the feeling in your body now. Notice how it changes. For most people, it gets smaller. Sometimes it goes away completely. A lot of times it goes away completely. Now, once you realize that, I want you to lift your hands up once again. Imagine your hands are now the world's most powerful frisbee magnets. I want you to suck that frisbee right back into your hands. And because this, ladies and gentlemen, is your neurology. It's your mind, it's your body, and you are the god or goddess of your universe. I want you to make that picture as big as you can stand it and find the location in or around your body that gives you the best feeling ever. And then just let it fix itself in place. And from there, as it fixes itself in place, let all those wonderful feelings, all those wonderful sensations flow from your heart into your bloodstream. From your bloodstream to every place your blood goes, those feelings flow. Notice the process taking place. Don't try to measure it, manage it, or make it happen faster. Just notice the process taking place. Let that blood go into the cells and the DNA and feel the DNA itself beginning to become like little pleasure factories, producing and generating more and more and more of those wonderful sensations until they become perpetual, impossible to turn off. So that for as long as your heart continues to beat and your lungs continue to breathe, this feeling will only grow stronger. Just notice that happening. Become aware of the process installing itself. And when you know it's done, when you know it's locked in, impossible to turn off, ladies and gentlemen, try to turn it off and notice what happens instead. What just happened? Open your eyes. Notice how good you feel. What just happened? You mean you're stuck feeling good now? Well, that's a fuck deal, isn't it? Give yourselves a big round of applause. Have a seat. That's where we start. Why? Because in order for the magic to manifest, all the different parts of your neurology have to work together. It's not just enough to get your body involved, well, that's a big piece. It's not just enough to use your imagination. You also have to get your critical conscious mind involved too. All of the parts of your nervous system have to work together. They have to work together because the human neurology is a holographic system. Okay, now we're not going to get too much into that. Other than to say that the more parts of you work together, the more synergy and power you bring to bear on the changes. Every experience that human beings have has a code that allows it to manifest within your nervous system. Now, whether you believe in energy as a phenomena, as a theory, as a construct, it doesn't really matter. The one thing that does matter, and this is where NLP and energetics and psychology all come together, is that if energy is a phenomena, and the quantum physicists of the world tell us it is, and the body is made of energy and it runs on energy and things that it does are based on changes and things in the energy field, then by definition there must be something in that energy field that the neurology uses to know what to do. There must be a code. That code is inherent in the energetics of the neurology, or of the system, and it must be encoded in a language that the neurology understands. And if we can begin to decipher that language, we can rewrite the code. And we can make it do anything we want. First part you got to understand is if you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. Because all that other stuff I just talked about manifests as the feeling in your body. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know about four tuples and complex coding systems and propulsion mechanisms and all this other stuff that NLP teaches you. You don't need to know that to drive the car. What you do need to know is that if you can point to where you feel it, you got the access point. You got the access to the key. The keyboard, by the way, is your imagination. Anybody here, a geek like me, likes to watch superhero movies? Any Tom Cruise fans like Minority Report or Mission Impossible or some shit like that? You know my favorite scenes in those movies are like when he's like working with that holographic computer, like virtual reality shit, right? Where there's no physical computer there. It's just this big bubble of holograms all around him, and he's opening stuff up and he's expanding this and closing that. You know those scenes I'm talking about? Right? Guess where that idea comes from? From you. What did you just do? You pointed to where you felt something, you reached out and touched a picture, you made it bigger. You see, human beings create technology that mirrors what they do with their neurology. That's why we call it an intuitive interface. Talk about technology, the interface is intuitive, right? If you can point to where you feel it and find that picture, you've just accessed the dashboard that controls your subjective experience. It's your subjective experience that creates what you pull into your life, what you ignore, and the behaviors that you do as a result. The fastest way to change the feeling is to change your body. Right? So first and foremost, no matter what situation you're in, you can be in a war zone. Now, I wouldn't test that because you might get shot, but there is no amount of willpower that you can exert that can override your physiology without training. So it's your physiology that controls your psychology. If you can get your physiology, your posture, and your breathing different, then by definition, your emotional state must change. I want to test that. Would that be okay? Everybody stand up. Now this goes back to Amy's work in power poses, and the science is there, but I've been teaching this way before Amy came out with her studies, and we go way deeper into our persuasion and influence courses. But what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to go back to that amazingly good feeling that we just had, right? And might still be going on for all I know, but I want you to go back into that posture, right? As we go back into that posture, let all those feelings come flooding back. I want you to pay attention to the way you're standing, how you're standing, how your weight is distributed. Pay attention to your breathing. What part of your body are you breathing from as those good feelings come back? Right? And now here's what I want you to do. I want you to summon up every ounce of willpower that you have. Okay? And without changing anything about your body, in other words, don't change your posture, keep your posture exactly the same, keep your breathing the same, try to feel bad. Notice you probably have a lot of trouble doing that. Now go act like those good feelings come flooding back. Right? Now, for the next part, I'm going to have you turn around and look at TJ because I don't want you looking at me when you do this shit, right? I'm teasing. Turn around, look that way.
Hi, TJ.
Hi, TJ. He gets slimed every time we do this meetup. Anyway, now, this one's a little bit different, but again, it goes to the opposite idea. I want you to remember a time when you saw something you wanted, you went for it, but for some mysterious reason it didn't manifest. And I want you to remember that moment when you realized it wasn't going to happen. Maybe the disappointment started to manifest, maybe you started to slump a little bit. I don't know how it manifests for you, but I want you to remember that moment where you realized you weren't going to get the brass ring. Okay? I want you to stand the way you were standing, breathe the way you were breathing, let those feelings start to come back. And now what I'd like you to do, without changing anything, not your breathing, not your posture, as an act of will, try to feel good. Notice you might have a little bit of trouble or a whole lot of trouble. Maybe it's even impossible. Now what I want you to do is I want you to hold on to that negative feeling as much as you can. Shift your body back to the winner's posture and notice what happens. Turn around, look up here. What'd you notice? Voila. She's glowing over it. What'd you notice?
It helped.
It helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you probably noticed was as you were holding the positive posture and you were trying to feel not so great, part of your body wanted to do this. Kind of wanted to slump
I
again.
need to change my posture more. I don't have that.
We all,
difference between the two.
yeah, there are subtle, we'll work on that. All right, we'll clear some of this stuff up. My point is, this is the first line of defense. You know, they say that depression is rampant in this country. What's the physiology of depression?
Fetal.
Anybody have a job where they have to do something like this?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of our driving is this way too, right? There's a lot of postures that we do in our careers that actually contribute to our psycho-emotional state. Remember this. Unless you are special forces trained, elite athlete trained, where they get specialized training in exerting willpower in highly fluid and challenging, emotionally challenging situations, you are at the mercy of your physiology. Okay? If you want to research have a seat, guys. If you want to research the information on that, there's a book out there called Willpower by Roy Baumeister, Baumeister. Okay, the theory is called willpower depletion theory. You have two forms of state control. for lack of a better word, ways to control your psycho-emotional state. One is through your physiology, which we've demonstrated, and the other is through your willpower, by just deciding to feel a certain way and hoping you have enough fuel in the tank to do that. Well, for the most part, every time you have to exert emotional control, stifle an emotional response, you burn through those willpower units like McDonald's sells hamburgers. And when you run out, you default to pre-programmed hedonistic thinking. So you can be on a diet, you can be rigorous on a diet for 6 weeks or 8 months or whatever. You have a really bad day at the office, the next thing you know, you're up to your neck in the refrigerator scooping down Haagen-Dazs and glazed donuts, right? Because there was no more juice left in the tank to exert your willpower. Okay? A lot of times when we try to manifest using the law of attraction, it's usually after we've had a really bad fucking day. You ever notice that? It's like, I need to affirm myself. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. True, not true? True. Right? That's usually when we pull out the law of attraction shit. What state are we in?
The worst.
You're in the worst fucking state you can imagine for manifesting, because guess what you're going to get? The state you're in when you start doing that stuff will magnetize more of that stuff. So if you're going to do any kind of manifestation work, the first thing that has to change is your frequency, which means the feelings, which means the state. How many people here have ever heard of a show called Lie to Me? Okay, if you haven't, it's free on Netflix. Go rent every single season. It is awesome. The consultant for that show was a very famous researcher named Paul Ekman. Ekman is the world's leading authority on emotions and the face. He's also a world-recognized expert on lie detection. He was the consultant for that show. So there's some tremendously good science delivered to you in a very entertaining way. And since Tim Roth plays the lead role, you can actually watch the character get progressively more psychotic as the seasons go on, because that's just what Tim Roth's characters do, right? But you will learn a tremendous amount from the show. In one of Dr. Ekman's early books called Emotions Revealed, he talks about a behavior called the emotional refractory period. The emotional refractory period is what we call a perceptual filter. It is a behavior that your nervous system engages in every single time your feelings and your emotions change. Okay? When I say perceptual filter, what I'm actually saying is how the type of information and the order that you pay attention to information in your environment will change as your feelings change. So let's say that I'm in an interaction with somebody and I just got out of an argument with somebody. I'm with somebody different, but I just got out of an argument with somebody, and so my state is not great. And there are 10 elements of data in the environment, 8 of which are positive, 2 of which are negative. Guess which ones I will focus on first? That's right. The emotional refractory period is a filter designed to keep you in the same state you're currently in, to the exclusion of all else. It changes as the context changes, but it's, again, based on your emotions and feeling states in your body. So it really doesn't matter how much positivity is around you. If your state is negative, you will look for the most negative stuff first, because that is what will reinforce the state you're currently in or re-trigger it. Anybody here ever been in an argument with somebody? Right? You ever go through the process of the knockdown, drag out, he said, she said, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden you get to the resolution point. The argument's over. And then for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, anything you say pisses them off again. Welcome to the wonderful world of the emotional refractory period. How does this relate to getting lucky? It has everything to do with getting lucky. Because what we're talking about when we talk about getting lucky tonight has nothing to do with metaphysics, even though it does. It has everything to do with your neurology. Several years ago, Psychology Today and several other researchers did a study. What actually separates people who have high episodes of serendipitous events in their life, in other words, luck, good fortune, yada, 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 from the average person, from the Schlepprocks of the world, right? How many people here know who Schlepprock was? Okay, if you don't know who Schlepprock was, go all watch the old Flintstone second generation where Pebbles and Bam Bam grow up and hang out with their friends, right? They had this character, his name was Schlepprock. Now, Schlepprock was the poster child for bad karma for everybody else. He was the world's largest jinx. Anytime he walked into a room, if something bad could happen, it would happen to the people around Schleprock. Right? You know, there are people in the world, like if a safe filled with, $1 million fell out of the sky, as the safe was falling, the store, for some reason, the door would just pop open, the $1 million would fall out, it would fall in the back seat of their fucking car. And the safe would land on mine. Right? Don't you hate those fucking people? Right? What causes that, or events like that? Psychology today and several research said, well, are there characteristics, are there qualities, are there attributes that lucky people have that makes them different? And they did a study. It turns out there were 5. Now, it doesn't mean if you don't have these, everybody has them, by the way. If you're a self-actualizing human being at any level, you have them. It's just the degree and the proportions of them, right? Well, until we know what it is we need to measure, we have no way to make it better. Does that make sense? So the first characteristic, and it's the one I actually asked at the beginning of this meetup, how many lucky people do we have in the room? Okay. There's your first quality and characteristic. Lucky people identify as being lucky. It's an identity with them. In NLP, we have this thing called logical levels. Okay? It starts with the transpersonal or spiritual level. This is the model created by Robert Dilts. Then it goes to the identity level. And then it goes into beliefs, capabilities, and then environment. I'm sorry, behaviors. Behaviors is somewhere in here, behaviors. Okay? And then environment. Why is this important? The original model was created by a guy named Gregory Bateson, who's a well-known, I think he was a social psychologist or something, way, way back in the day. And Bateson, I don't think, identified a transpersonal level. I think Dilts added that later. But here's how this works in regards to your neurology. These are all levels of belief, of self-concept. It's hierarchical. What that means is this level controls this level. This level controls this level. This level controls this level. And this level controls this level. So the higher up this scale you go, the more influence you exert. You ever hear anybody in the self-help world say, whether you believe you can do something or you can't, you're right?
Yeah.
Look where beliefs lie on the chart. Right? Each and every one of these, ladies and gentlemen, are filters to your perception. The reason that this is so important for us to understand is that it controls every single level below it. If I accept at this level that I am a lucky person, everything will line up to manifest more lucky events. Everything. Now, that's all well and good, David, but how do you know that? Because unlike me, there's lots of people out there throwing money at shit I would never think to do. Like rent out an entire restaurant for a solid week and fill it with actors and send people in who either self-identified as lucky, average, or unlucky just to see what would happen. So one of the things that they did, they rented out a restaurant, they put a 20-pound note on the floor. I believe the study was done in England. And what they wanted to know is, do lucky people perceive the world differently than average or unlucky people? Well, it's almost intuitive to say that they do, but they wanted to see just how pervasive this was. So they put a 20-pound note on the floor and sent people into the restaurant. All the patrons were actors, so nobody was going to pick up the 20-pound note. And they wanted to gauge what percentage of lucky people would see the 20-pound note. All of them. All of them. Then they sent average people in. And as you can expect, there was an average distribution. Then they sent the unlucky people in. We haven't found them yet. Almost nobody saw the money on the floor. You see, if quantum physics and the spiritual masters of all time are right, everything that has ever been or ever will be is already here. Why aren't we perceiving it? Why aren't we seeing it? Why aren't we accessing it? It's because of the filters from the most primal, fundamental, primary level of our neurology all the way down. Everything that human beings do is a metaphor. Every piece of your reality is an interpretation. Now, whether you accept that theoretically or practically, it's not going to matter. It's just the way it is. However, if you do accept that this is true, you're going to gain tremendous ability to change it. Every single part of this room that we think is solid isn't. We all know that from physics class. What we don't realize is that this illusion that we're in is an interpretation of vibrational information. Information that is, of which there is far more than what we're perceiving. But it's filtered out at every level of the neurology. But it is the stuff that we can perceive encoded in a structure and a language that the neurology understands, so it can create this wonderful representation of something, this wonderful holographic movie that we're in. But everything from the most primal level of your neurology to the things you think about most arduously is an interpretation and a distillation of information. Your critical faculty, the conscious mind, the part of you that thinks it's in charge, ladies and gentlemen, is the least informed and the last to know of any part of you. Because all the rationales and all of the decisions that you make and all the logic that you apply is based on information. That seems normal, that seems logical. But guess where that information comes from? It comes from the rest of your nervous system. You can only make decisions based on the information your unconscious mind gives you, because it comes first. It's the one running the show. The neurology reigns supreme. Now, that doesn't mean you're powerless. It means you're unconscious. It means you're unaware until now. But now that you have the awareness, right, 1 minute, now that you have the awareness, you can begin to exert more control. Yes, sir?
How can the unconscious mind give you information when it's unconscious?
Because it's the primary filtering system by which we get information to the conscious mind. Everything that you think and understand came to you through the 5 sensory apertures, which is already unconscious. It's all pre-conscious. Okay? This is how it works. We don't live in real time. We have an illusion of time. In fact, time is actually a filter. Yes?
I was thinking basically a good way to look at it is we only see what the subconscious mind lets through.
Exactly.
But it sees everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And everything that... I often ask this question. I often get all kinds of really cool responses. But I often ask this question. What are your thoughts made of? Functionally. Words? Or an energy? That's usually a metaphysical answer. True enough to be true, but not where we're going. What are your thoughts? What are the building blocks of your thoughts? Your emotions? Neurotransmitters? Wonderful answers. Wrong. To do things? What are your thoughts made of? If you're going to transfer a thought to somebody, I'm going to give you the answer because we'll be here all day. Functionally. Experience. What are your experiences made of? Feelings? Oh. Feelings. Nothing more than feelings. Here's the answer, ladies and gentlemen.
What was the question again?
What are your thoughts made out of? Right? Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. Every single thought, memory, belief that you have can be distilled down to that. Channels of information. Yes, what?
Do those one more time.
Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. You cannot create a thought, relive a memory, express a thought without distilling it down to visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory information. These form the building blocks of your internal experience. because they are the building blocks of your external experience. Now, of these, this is where we kind of diverge from NLP, about 60% of the population would be qualified as a visual representational system. 60% of the people are visual dominant. That's not relevant for us because every one of you is kinesthetic dominant. The kinesthetic mode is the one that drives the bus in terms of getting you to behave a certain way or feel a certain way. Everything we do as human beings is in response to a feeling in our bodies. It's either a feeling we want more of or a feeling we want a whole lot less of. And then we will create a behavior in response to that feeling. Every single behavior that the human being engages in is built out of a series of parts of your brain that NLP calls a strategy in order for it to fire. Think of it like for those of you who are somewhat mechanical, think about the firing sequence on a spark plug sequence in an engine. And for every behavior that you do, you have a strategy that implements it. One of the studies later on in NLP is what is people's mental syntax? What are the order and sequence of internal representations and things that they do in their head that allow somebody to manifest a specific result? Now, we're not going there today. We don't need to. That's way out of our pay grade to get practical. But just as a way to educate and understand this, the order and sequence of these representations is what NLP would call a strategy. You have one for everything that you do. In other words, no matter how obscure or abstract the thought may be, you can distill it down to an order and sequence of VAK, or behaviors I should say, an order and sequence of VAK cortexes of your brain that is being activated. Okay, embodied cognition is telling us this as well. Now, NLP came about in the 70s. Embodied cognition studies started about a decade ago. What I mean by that is, everybody here you've seen the coffee we have at the back of the room, which I hope you're drinking lots of, right? Here's how this works. Remember that the human brain is simultaneously literal, metaphorical, and analogical. Okay? And what I mean by that is, if I give the same parts of your brain that monitor physical warmth, temperature, also control emotional warmth. So much so that if I give you a warm drink to hold, you will feel more emotional warmth towards me than if I give you a cold one. That's the neuroscience. Okay, they've done really cool studies on this. In fact, I told this particular study to one of my students in a class, and he wanted to check on me. And he actually went out and found a different study where they actually took a bunch of regular people, put them on an airplane, gave them an eye exam. Then dressed them up as pilots and gave them the same eye exam. Their visual acuity went up an average of 20 points. Okay? Subjective and objective are mediated by roughly the same parts of the brain. The cortexes overlap by about 40%. This is why you can sometimes see how you feel. It's called synesthesia, right? And for every behavior that you generate, there's going to be a firing order. That firing order will come out as a mirror in your words. The way you describe your internal experience and the structure, that comes out in your language. That's, again, the deep part of NLP, but not the practical part that we're going to go into tonight. I mean, it's practical, but not for what you guys want. But I want to cover that so you understand the scope of what we're dealing with. And it's the tip of a very large iceberg, but you don't need the whole iceberg to get awesome really quick. Okay? Awesome being a technical term that I haven't come up with a cool metaphor for yet. Right? Within each of these channels of experience, though, are distinctions. Right? If I say information comes at me in a visual channel, let's go back. Let's go to that cool picture we liked so much. Remember that one we played with? Point to where you feel it, reach out, touch the picture. Trace the edges of it with both of your hands. Notice how big it is. What happens when you make it half the size? Oh, shit. Now bring it back to its original size. What do we do? We just change the size. How the fuck does that work? It's real simple. All of the distinctions, is it big? Big picture? Small picture? These are visual distinctions in the visual channel. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the coding system of the neurology. the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory attributes to the internal representations, the memories, the beliefs, the experiences that you have, are the coding system that your neurology uses to create and shape your experience. The moment you begin to change the coding system, just a simple one, moving from a small picture to a big picture, boom, this changed. Didn't it? That language is very, very vast. But fortunately, we don't need to know all of it to start making changes. But we do need to know that this is what cooks the rice. Because what? Okay. What cooks the rice? This is what gets shit done. Shit being a technical term. Specialized hypnotic influence technologies, right? Once we know how we've built what NLP calls an internal representation, which means a memory, a belief, a fantasy, a daydream, anything. Once we know how we've built it, we can change it. We can change it. How does this go back to getting lucky? Well, turns out there are certain attributes that lucky people share in greater proportions than others. Could those attributes also have a code? Could they also have a way that they're built? The answer is yes. So the first thing we have to do is take an inventory, right, of ourselves. We'll get to that. I do have one thing I want to get out of the way. I'm going to take you, this is a big topic. I mean, obviously, right? If this is everything there is to learn, we have time for this. So I will take you as far as I can in the time that we have. I will point you in the direction of more if that's where you want to go. Is that fair? Okay, this means yes. Very good. Thank you. Need permission. All right. So let's talk about what are these. So now that we know that there's a code that we can use to apply this. By the way, you also have codes for all the shitty things that piss you off. You've coded them really fucking well, right? We can change those, right? All of your beliefs are built out of VAKOG distinctions as well. In fact, we spent an entire day yesterday in my mastermind changing beliefs, just moving pictures around and stuff like that. Okay? Okay. So, what's the first one? Identifying. People identify themselves as being lucky. They identify themselves as being lucky. Okay? So, you have a place in your body, a place in your mind where your identity lives, where the things that are what's important to you are stored. Right? How many people here have ever gotten lucky? Not that way. Oh, that way too is okay, I guess. Right? All right. How many have gotten lucky in several different contexts? Okay? So here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to actually close your eyes for a moment. And I'd like you to remember the best example of that time. That moment when you just got lucky, when you realized you got lucky. And then I want you to backtrack just a little bit to right before you realized it. And notice where that feeling in your body lives. And point to it. Imagine there's a picture floating in the space around you that represents that moment. Reach out and touch it. Trace the edges of it with both of your hands so you know how big it is. Excellent. Now as you look at it, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to make a mental note of the answers. Is it moving or still as you look at the picture? Is it color or black and white? Is it clear or is it fuzzy? Is there sound? Are you in the picture or are you seeing it as if it's through your own eyes? If there's sound, is it loud or is it soft? Where does it come from? What happens when you make the picture a little bit bigger? What happens to the feeling? Are there any tastes or smells to it? What kind of tastes or smells are there? I want you to take a few moments and play with the attributes of that experience and notice how it changes the feelings in your body. Find the ones that make them stronger. Some people, it might be pulling it closer to your body. Some people, it might be taking it from a still picture to a movie. Some people, it might be going from a first person or from a second person to a first person. I just want you to play with this and notice what happens. That's right. When you know you've got it, when you've played with it enough, just allow your eyes to open, look up here. I'll take all the time you need. What'd you notice, sir?
Feeling really good.
You're feeling really good?
Oh,
Every time you feel really good, your vibration just raised. You become more magnetic to frequencies in that spectrum. This is how it gets practical really, really quick. The feelings that you generate in your body are analogous to the vibrational frequency that you send out to the universe. Now, you do not necessarily attract specific events that are on your vision board per se. What you will attract are events that result in that frequency in your body. That's the quantum part of it, right? And that will become more important as we go through the other characteristics of lucky people, right? Now, one of the problems or the challenges that we have when we're working in the law of attraction world is that you have two things that are competing with each other. You have the beliefs you know about and the beliefs you don't. What you're working with now are the beliefs you don't know you have. These are the ones that are below the threshold of conscious awareness that are always running on an endless loop. Yes, sir?
Okay, so I just remembered surviving a horrible car wreck.
Uh-huh.
So that, there's this feeling of relief and gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, does this mean I'm going to start attracting horrible car wrecks in my
You may want to pick a different one or just depotentiate that. All right? Just an idea, right? Is there anything that wasn't life-threatening? Although the moment that happened is a serendipitous event, isn't it? So yeah, we can actually depotentiate the negative part of it and utilize the parts that are the luck part. But that's going to take, I don't know if we can do that level of depth in a group, right? But what we would actually do is we would look at, in your case, we would look at other lucky events and compare them to that image or that representation and notice what's the same. And that would give us how your neurology codes for that set of frequencies. And then we would just work with that and remove everything else. Right? In NLP, we call that mapping across. Once you extract a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic map of how of the building blocks of an experience, it just goes above most other filters. And so as we start to change one, it'll translate to anything else. The neurology is like a cassette player. You guys remember cassette players? Some of you don't. It scares me. I feel old now, right? When you if you have a very broad audio cassette collection and you take a Lawrence Welk audio cassette and stick it in the player, does the player care? Fuck no. Everybody in the car cares, right? If you pop that out and put in a polka song, does it care? The player doesn't care, right? Your neurology is the player. It doesn't care what information it processes. You understand that? At the level that we're working with, everything is data. Your neurology can interpret and play that data any way you code for. Any way you code for, right? But you do have to have a few prerequisites in place in order to access that faculty. You got to get your body involved. This is a distinction that we make from other NLP people who kind of just have you do visualizations and do weird things with your mind. If you've ever heard the NLP swish pattern where they're moving pictures around, it doesn't work near as well when you actually point to where you feel it, reach out and touch the picture. Changes everything. Reroutes the signals through your brain, and you get quantum change. Because we got to get the meat involved. We got to get somatic engagement. The moment we start to change feelings in the body, we change every single thing else. It's that simple and it's that complex. Everything that you do, your entire the system that you apply to your reality is based on the feelings in your body. Some you're aware of and a lot of them you aren't consciously aware of. There's firewalls between each of the levels of your mind that filters out and deletes, distorts, and generalizes data. Right? In my classes, we talk about two main categories to the nervous system: the way the world is, which is all based on VAK, and the way the world is supposed to be, which is another series of filters based on your beliefs, your memories, the decisions that you've made, the meta programs that you have in place, what your concept, your self-concept is. These are all things that are applied after the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and olfactory channels are processed. It's layered and filtered away so that by the time you become aware of something, you have a very, very diluted, deleted, distorted, and generalized picture of the world. And that's what you use to make all of your decisions consciously. But you've processed an almost infinite number of things prior to that. My job as a teacher, I have a very lofty goal of eliminating as much suffering as humanly possible and to show you what's possible. That's my job as a human being on this planet. To do that, I have a primary goal of making you as much as self-aware of what's going on inside of you as I can. Because anything outside of your awareness is outside of your control. Just because you aren't aware of it doesn't mean it isn't controlling you. And there are many, many well-funded, highly resourced agencies in this world with a vested interest in doing this to you, in keeping you unaware, or directing that awareness to things that don't matter. Understand? Okay? So think of it as a self-defense course if you like, or whatever way gets you to take action on these things, which, by the way, is also one of the 5 characteristics. Lucky people are inherently action takers. They just get up and do shit. They ready, fire, aim, more often than not. Yes?
Did you finish those 5?
No, I have not. That's called an open loop in NLP. It's a programming process that we use.
Well, make sure
But and I use it to really screw with the ultra procedural people in the room. Like if I really want to screw with you, I'll say there are 5 things that you need to know. The third one, ah! Right? And by the way, as I go through these characteristics, some of these you will fit into, and some of them you'll be very pissed off that you don't. Some of them you'll be very pissed off that you do, because they won't match how you think this shit's supposed to be. I don't tell you about. I tell you the way the world is. You can figure out how you want it to be, right? But you won't make the world what you want it to be until you accept it the way it is, right? Do we need to take a break? It is going on. Is it 8:30? Really? You guys want to take a break and come back and jump into this? All right. So before you go, eat lots of chocolate. I have a free gift for everybody. We're going to come back. We're going to jump into the last 4 qualities, and then we're going to do some installations. We're going to clear out some shit, and then we're going to install these traits. We're going to amplify them and maximize them when we come back. For everybody that came out tonight, I have a free gift, especially if this is your first time. Normally to walk in my door, I have a clinic in I didn't give you my pedigree. I have a clinic in Solana Beach that I've been running for the last 10 years. Our specialty at the clinic is treating physiological illness that has as its roots repressed emotion. Some people in my field, they work with smoke cessation or weight loss. I don't get that. I get, post-traumatic stress, not me personally, but I mean chronic terminal cancer, Parkinson's, diabetes, all kinds of medical illnesses that have as its root repressed emotion, and we come in and we make powerful, powerful changes with people. I don't accept everybody. We also get a lot of anxiety, worry, fear, all that other good stuff, and we have a very, very high success rate utilizing the processes I'm sharing with you. For everybody who came out tonight who wants to, I'm offering you all a free 30-minute consultation. Just see Linda at the back of the room. We only have about 9 slots left because I've been putting people on a waiting list because of my last training I did, so we don't have a lot of time available. But it's not a sales pitch. If you just want to pick my brain for 30 minutes, ask me anything you want, that's fine. If you have some things you think I might be able to help you with, we'll sit down, we'll evaluate whether what you have is a fit for what we do. If it's a fit, I'll tell you. We'll outline some strategies and tactics for helping you get your situation resolved in the shortest amount of time possible. If it's not a fit, I'll tell you that too. Because I don't want to waste your time or your money on a resolution process that may not work. I don't waste my time on low percentage technique, and I don't waste my time on cases that don't have the highest percentage, or the person's time on the highest percentage of resolution. Does that make sense? So if you feel that if you just want to pick my brain about what we covered tonight, that's fine. Ask Sagrita. She had a breakthrough from her consultation, right? And now she's filling my room. But anyway, see Linda at the back of the room, and she'll get you into that. Otherwise, let's take 15 minutes, eat lots of chocolate, drink lots of coffee. You're going to need it. Make sure you go potty. And then come right back, and we're going to jump into some stuff, okay? Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Sit your asses down.
Halloween or a holiday
Yeah. That'll be my martial arts videos. Have a seat, guys. We got a lot to do. A lot to do in a short time to get there. God, I got to stop bringing up all these 70s hits, huh? All right. So, to close a few loops for people, all right, I gave you the first two of these characteristics, and I went a little bit deeper into some side topics because it's relevant. You see, your perceptual filters are the primary modulators of luck in your life. The information that comes into your awareness will determine what opportunities you take advantage of and which ones you miss. So we have to start off with the identity. First and foremost is you have to identify yourself as being lucky. Right? So that's the first characteristic or attribute that we need to install. Right? The more resources and examples of being lucky that we encompass, the easier that is to do. Right? So that's our first one. The second one, which to me is if you had nothing else, would still make you more successful than you are right now, is action. I believe so much in this concept and this idea that I even named my clinic after it. Action Performance Care. Right? Action Hypnosis, Action NLP. Action, action, action. You know, you'd be surprised. I deal with a lot of stuff in my clinic. Now, a comment was made during the break, and I took it for granted, but sometimes things you take for granted are things that come back to haunt you. You notice that we have you guys sign video releases and stuff like that at the beginning of the event, because in case we bring your lovely face on camera, you know, we want to make you a movie star, but we don't force anybody to come up and do anything. And we value your privacy a great deal. If you come to see me at the clinic, all of our work, all of our records is HIPAA compliant. Your records are protected, your privacy is protected. Okay? We have you, if you're a hypnosis or NLP or energy psychology client, you fill out the exact same paperwork as if you're coming to us for chiropractic or acupuncture or oriental medicine. For those of you who don't know, I didn't give you my pedigree. Some of you already know it, some of you do not. I am a licensed acupuncturist and diplomate of oriental medicine here in the state of California as well as nationally. I graduated from the Southern California University of Health Sciences back in 2005. If you guys want to check me out. I'm also a certified Reiki master. I've been a Reiki master since the early 90s, since before Reiki was cool. Right? I'm a certified pranic healer and pranic psychotherapist, DNA theta healer. I'm certified in Bengston energy healing, as well as advanced DNA theta healing. Okay? I have more energy credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. I've also been studying Kabbalah since the early 90s, since before Madonna started studying Kabbalah. So I'm very much a prima donna. All right. And that's more true in more ways than one. But anyway, so I know a bit about what's going on. I don't claim to know everything. What I'm giving you is what works for me. This is the world according to David. If it resonates with you, grab a hold of it, take the ball and run with it, to use a sports metaphor. If it doesn't, chuck it and find something that does. Right? Clinically, we see everything from post-traumatic stress to terminal cancer. And we have a very, very good rate with resolving chronic and terminal illness. Just you'd be surprised how rapidly the system changes when you integrate all of the elements the way nature intended it to be. See, one of the problems that we have is that we live in a society whose scientific model is reductionist. It separates everything from everything else. But your body, your mind, your spirit are not designed to work alone. They're not designed one division to work separate from another division. They're designed to integrate and communicate in a synergistic way. The problem is that each of those layers of your neurology is a filter, and it has a firewall. And some information translates very, very cleanly, and some parts don't. So the problem that we have isn't that we don't work. It's that parts of us don't understand one another. And that goes back to a very famous figure in the 70s and an early part of the history of NLP, but even in psychiatry, a man by the name of Dr. Milton Erickson. Dr. Erickson was the world's leading authority on hypnosis at the time. He's believed to be and regarded as the founder of conversational hypnosis. And he's quoted as saying, your clients will be your clients because they're out of rapport with their subconscious mind. And that is more true than you can possibly imagine. We're always trying to separate this from that, to isolate things. And on one level that's okay, but that's not how your system works. So you can try to make these arbitrary distinctions between your body and your imagination versus your rational mind. But that weakens the system. Yes, Jesus said it, a house divided against itself can't stand. Your neurology, when integrated, is magic, real magic. And the speed and the pervasiveness of the changes that you can develop and create when all of the parts of you work together is nothing short of miraculous. And I really mean that. So take that for what it's worth. I'm going to close some loops for you tonight. We talked about identity. We got to get your self-concept, what you believe who you are and what you deserve. We got to get those filters changed first and foremost, because no matter what other traits no matter what other things you try to do, if you have a self-concept, an identity, a set of filters about who you are and what you deserve in this world that says you can't have something, it doesn't matter who gives it to you. You're going to find a way to lose it. So we got to change ourselves at the identity level. To do that, we need to look at the results that we're producing and why we're that way. We talk about the law of attraction. Did I say something funny? Again?
Lottery winners.
Lottery winners. They lose it fast or kill themselves, right?
Yeah.
They do, right? And this is John Assaraf, who I actually was in a mastermind with for a couple of years, said it best when he talked about The Secret. He says, you cannot out-earn your self-image, which is your identity, right? So the moment we begin to change things at the identity level, and here's the thing you understand, is you are not your identity. That's one of the big delusions that we labor under, is that our identities, the personas we carry around inside of us, are us. They're not. They're suits of clothing that you wear, that you just like, right? You all have a favorite shirt or a favorite pair of shoes, right? You have others. But when you wear that shirt or that shoes, you feel the best. You feel the most familiar, which is what your neurology sorts for, by the way. Your neurology, most of the time when we regress people to cause, which is how you fix most problems that are identity-based, you got to take them to between 0 and 5 years old, to where the templates that form the foundations of who they are and the primary filters they apply to the world are created. Very doable, but you'll never get there through the neocortex. You'll never get there through the rational part of your brain. You will get there through the body, though. Because if you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. Okay? Identity, action. These are the two running themes in every single law of attraction meetup or personal transformation workshop that I hold. You need an identity that supports what you want, and you need to be willing to take the actions to facilitate that. Very smart woman, very intelligent woman, passed on a saying that she got from her mother, who said, you can be, do, or have anything in this life that you want, as long as you're willing to become the person who can have that thing. All right, the way she said it exactly was to become the person to whom that thing can happen to. So identity. And identity is something that is a very deep well, right? For those of you who saw the young lady here 2 weeks ago, we changed some stuff at the identity level, and magic, literally magic happens. Yes?
So I got kind of lost. I understood the clothes analogy and that that's your, it's not your identity. when you're talking in this example, identity, action, what is identity? Can you get that?
Identity is a filter. It's a set of beliefs about who you are and what you deserve. What's possible for you and what isn't. What's desirable and what isn't. In NLP speak, we talk about criteria and values. Criteria is a checklist. The values are the label we give the feeling we get when this checklist is met. These are the things that support your identity, your self-concept. The primary filters, the primary building blocks of your identity are the dominant caregivers within the ages of 0 to 5. When you come into this world, there is no right, wrong, good, bad, this is me, that's you. Those are all distinctions you acquire later. And if you think about our development, you just extract all the spiritual, metaphysical implications out, and you just look at how we're formed and how we're created and how we come into this world. What do you start out as? You start out as one cell inside of something much greater and larger than yourself. There is no us. There's only me. When you go through parturition, when you move out into separation and you go through that birth process, those filters aren't there yet. You have just changed, but it's still all you as far as your neurology is concerned. So as you view what's going on around you, your brain, who is in the most neuroplastic phases of its existence ever, your brain is making neural connections at hyper speed. Okay, we'll talk about neuroplasticity probably sometime when we can do it, more about it, but the more chocolate you eat, the more plastic your neurology becomes, so keep guzzling. It's true. The hormone that mediates neuroplasticity in the body is known as oxytocin. Okay, oxytocin is a neurotransmitter. Most of us know it as the bonding hormone. It's the one that is responsible for the connections, the emotional connections between parent and baby, between spouses, right? It's also a big factor in obviously lactation. But most people don't realize it's also the primary mediator of neuroplasticity in the body. The more oxytocin hits the system, the more rapidly your neurology creates new neurological connections with other nerves. In other words, you learn. The other side of that is that oxytocin in enough quantities can actually dissolve existing neurological connections and allow for new programming to be laid over it. Now, the act that results in the greatest amount of oxytocin release is orgasm. So the best thing to do would be have 20 or 30 minutes of intense machine gun, shotgun powered, nuclear powered orgasms. Not going to do that tonight. Another way to do it is to hug people for 20 minutes or longer, and you'll generate a strong oxytocin release. Logistically, it's not really going to work out tonight. So I have to cheat. I can make you laugh a lot, can give you intense pleasure feelings, and I can feed you lots of chocolate. See, I'm not just trying to make you fat. There's a madness to my method. The more neurotransmitters I can get in, the more rapidly you change. I stack everything. Okay? Yes?
How do you distinguish your true identity from all of those?
Remember that first and foremost, your identity, actually I refer to CBT for this one, even though a lot of what I'm doing comes from actually Russian sports psychology and autogenics. The one thing that CBT says is that there's a spark of consciousness within you that is primary to all of those filters, those distinctions that we make. In the world according to David, I call it the acceptance, rejection, projection, connection. But think of your consciousness as you. But every distinction that you make about yourself is just a choice you've made, a decision a value that you've placed on what you're experiencing or how you're evaluating yourself. So you are different people in different clients. You can test this. When you go to church or synagogue, how many of you would go to church or synagogue wearing a slinky black dress? Yeah. You would, motherfucker. Of course the men do. This is California, after all. I guarantee you're a different person out at the nightclub than you are at home with mom,
Right.
at home with your spouse, on your honeymoon night with your spouse. You're different people, right? What the Russian sports psychologists discovered was that we have, and this is a neurological process within it, we call them subselves. And each of these are little semi-sentient circuits within us that activate, they turn on and off as the context changes, right? Everything we make is a distinction. The minute we make a distinction, it's not us, it's something we have, it's something we're doing. Now, you guys asked about identity, so this gets really, really trancy really, really quick and kind of taking us off the beaten path. But think of your true self as that spark of the divine within you. That spark of the divine that is no different in her than it is in him. Right? That is connected at some level. Everything else is a suit of clothing or the equivalent thereof that you create. You create, you have yourself, and then you have something that reflects that self, and then there's another part of you that observes the reflection. And it's like an infinity mirror, and it just keeps layering and layering and layering outward until at some point we actually forget which one is the real us. And we become identified with the suit of clothes that we wear, the personas that we have, never realizing that really what we are doing is we've forgotten that true essence of what we are and identified with the suit of clothes that we carry. And as long as we remain identified with that suit of clothes, remember that little hierarchy I showed you? Your neurology will fight to keep it. So we can actually change our perceptual positions very, very simply. We'll do a little drill real quick. I want you to just kind of sit with your feet flat on the floor. And I want you to just close your eyes for me. And then I promise we'll get back to the regularly scheduled program. But I want you to understand that just a change in perspective generates tremendous potential for change. So I want you to say, I am my body. I am my body. Notice what that experience is like. Now I want you to say, I have a body. I have a body. What just happened?
A little anxiety.
A little anxiety? Yeah. Okay. What happened? Right? Say, this may or may not be true for you, but think of something that is bothering you and pref it with, I am X, and formulate that statement as an identity statement in a way that makes sense. Notice how that makes you feel. And now say, I do whatever that behavior is. And notice what happens. That perceptual shift, that change of filter within your neurology opens and closes doors to modification, to changing it. The way your neurology works is your neurology is always concerned about itself. It always is thinking in terms of survival, metaphorically or literally. And so you develop personas and you develop behaviors based on the context and the environments that you find yourself in order to cope and be effective. And then sometimes these will shut down and sometimes they'll become more and more dominant. Now the Russian sports psychologists, the same team that taught the Russian Olympic team how to sweep the Olympics in the 70s, they discovered that these subselves, these co-personalities, have a level of dominance in your neurology based on the amount of energy directed at them by the unconscious mind. And that through certain processes they could go into the neurology and tell the brain, remove the power from this one and shunt it over here. And they became very, very powerful at changing identity and co-personality. Our neuroscience later on, sometime later, created this idea of what they call subselves. The Russians called it co-personalities. Our Western science called them subselves. And again, they're neurological patterns. In hypnosis, we might call them parts. There are parts of us that turn on and turn off as the context or the identity changes. Right? At the extreme, you have what we call dissociative identity disorder, which is when people go through such a traumatic experience that they actually create a separate self just to deal with it. Right? But they're not the self. Does that make sense? They're identities, they're suits of clothes, they're filters to our perceptions, our self-worth, and our identity, our abilities that turn on and off, and we act on them as if they're true. And while we're in that identity, we take any attack on it as a threat to our survival. That we will fight, even if it's, say for example, that you were diagnosed, and God forbid none of you ever have this, you have some kind of cancer or some kind of infection in your arm, and the only way to save your life is to cut the arm off. Now cognitively you know this. Will you still move heaven and earth to try and keep that arm? Right? That's kind of what happens when we accept something at an identity level and then try to remove it without stepping it down first. Human beings consistently confuse something they're doing with who they are. It's so pervasive that it's in our self-concept. When we describe our careers, what do you do for a living, sir?
A lot of different things.
Okay.
Chiropractor.
You're a chiropractor?
Yeah.
Say, he says, I'm a chiropractor. What do you do, Elena?
Software quality.
You're what?
Software quality.
Software quality? Okay. Does your job have a title?
SQE.
Screen, okay.
I'm a psychologist.
I'm a psychologist. What do you do?
Sales.
Okay. You've been to my, some of you guys know this, so you kind of give me a different answer, right? How many times when I ask you the question, what do you do for a living, you preface the statement with, I'm a. Anytime you hear the word I'm a, what you're hearing is an identity statement. You've accepted something you do with something you are. And as long as you do that, change is harder. Now, it doesn't mean accepting something at the identity level is bad. It's the foundation of who we are. But shouldn't we at least have the flexibility to decide who we want to be instead of who we were programmed to be? Because that's what you're dealing with. Who is the you want to be? Is it what you were programmed to be between the ages of 0 to 5? Because that's the foundation, the building blocks of your identity, and left to its own demise, it's going to keep running the same way it's been since you were 0 to 5. But with the right tools and understanding the coding system, you can go back, rewrite those templates, and be who you want to be instead of who you were programmed to be. Right? So hopefully I gave a little bit of idea of that whole self. What is this self? The self we're aware of isn't the true self. Weird, but just keeps getting infinite that way. Yes?
So when you talked about that one study where the guy is all dressed in the airline
Uh-huh.
uniform and their vision, so was that because of the identity they took on?
Embodied cognition, yeah. And they've done all kinds of weird stuff like this. They've actually, Deepak Chopra talked about a study many years ago where they literally took a whole bunch of people and they renovated this building way off in a remote location, turned it into the 1950s, and took all these like 70 and 80-year-old people back there. And everything was, 70s or 50s food and 50s music. And they literally started getting younger. They literally, their hair started getting dark again. Everything we do, ladies and gentlemen, is a filter to our reality. We don't actually know what true reality is. And that's both on one level tremendously terrifying and amazingly liberating. Which means, because it means there really aren't that many rules. There really aren't. So, did I beat that to death? Okay. Okay. So, action, identity. All right, identity, action. The next one is going to be open-minded. Not so open-minded your brains drop out. Okay? This is important. You'll find that lucky people, as a rule, are much more open to new stuff. Flexible and adaptable to life's changes and circumstances. They go with the flow. Right? Can't say much more than that. Beating a dead horse, right? Have there been moments in your life when you've gone with the flow and felt good about it? Did good things happen?
Yes.
Okay, those are the ones we're going to focus on. We're going to do a process later where we integrate all of these things, but you need to know what resources we're going for. Does that make sense? The next one is one that really screws with people. This is called specifically vague. Specifically vague. Now, I'll give you some ideas from this. They focus on the destination and let the method and means take care of itself. Okay, this is not somebody who plans every step of the journey and exactly at what point they should be reaching what point. Not what we're going for. Right? They're bullet pointers rather than scripters. Okay? They avoid hyperspecificity when selecting a direction. And the metaphor that they were given in the article was somebody, two people have the same goal, being a doctor. One person says, I'm going to be a doctor who helps people, versus, I'm going to be a cardiac surgeon at the Mayo Clinic. See the level of specificity change? The person, even if they're going to be a cardiac surgeon at the Mayo Clinic, the person with the vowing to become a doctor to help people has a higher probability of creating the luck circumstances that lead to them becoming a surgeon at the Mayo Clinic than the person with the hyper-specific goal. Doesn't mean the person with the hyper-specific goal can't do that. We're not talking about drive and willpower and determination. We're talking about luck. Just the awareness, the ability to to nonlinear serendipitous events that lead to an outcome. Okay? It doesn't mean if you're that specific, you're bad or you're wrong. We're talking about luck, the creation of serendipitous events and opportunities. These are the mindsets that open up the perceptual filters that allow your neurology to bring your attention to those moments. You understand the distinction I'm making? Because it's important. So they're specifically vague. They're kind to themselves. This is the one that pisses people off. Right? There's a certain category of human that the minute they do anything wrong, they don't live up to some perfectional standard, they beat themselves up relentlessly. Nobody here does that. Right? Nah. Not anymore. Okay, so they're kind to themselves. They recognize that failures are stepping stones to better things. Right? Lucky people are highly resilient. They bounce back. Right? They're psychologically tough. Right? They tend to let things roll off their back. You ever notice that lucky people tend to be like, I'll deal with it. Right? They don't linger. They don't hold on to that shit more often than not. Right? They brush off, there it is. They brush off failures and disappointments and quickly move on to the next opportunity. If you go back far enough in psychology today, you should be able to find the article I pulled this from. I didn't bring the citation with me, otherwise I'd have given it to you. They know how to let the past go and move forward. They know how to let the past go and move forward. This is a behavior. Okay? It's an attribute, a quality that you can enhance.
Lucky people?
Yep. These are parts of under the S. They do. Yeah. When we talk about being kind to themselves, which is the fifth one. Kind. Kind to self. They didn't say anything about kind to others. They could be assholes to everybody else, but they're kind to themselves. Right? You ever meet a narcissistic lucky person? Don't you just want to shoot those motherfuckers? Okay. So they're more present and future-oriented rather than past-oriented. Yes?
I have a question. The simple you gave for the two doctors, one that said to be a surgeon and the other one
Mm-hmm.
doctor to help people. I thought that when somebody is too general, things don't work out for them. You have to be specific for you.
They're specific, but they're not hyper-specific. They're bullet pointers rather than scripters. So what that means is my goal is to be a doctor and help people. Right? That's pretty specific. But to be a doctor at the Mayo, a cardiac surgeon at the Mayo Clinic by such and such a time, that's real specific.
Is that good or bad?
Neither. We're not talking about good or bad. We're talking about the filters that are in place. We're talking about the filters that are in place that move you towards the direction of serendipitous events. We're not talking about this, whether you're a good person or a bad person, whether you're effective or whether you're not effective. What we're talking about is luck, a phenomena that these people generate in more abundance than people who don't. Does that make sense? Okay? Again, my wife is hyper-specific. Her eyes, the dots of her eyes have eyes that are dotted. Okay? I have to plan to leave a house 20 minutes earlier than we need to be there because she's going to go back and check the locked door 3 times when she gets in the car. Okay? She's that detail-oriented. Okay? Whenever there's a big, heavy contract that needs to be read, I hand it to her. Because she will climb through that thing with a microscope. Right? remember, and again, it's very, see how fast we apply value judgments the minute we don't match up? Well, I thought this and I thought that. This has nothing to do with whether you're successful or not. Has nothing to do with whether you're successful. Has everything to do with whether you have the qualities and characteristics that cause luck to manifest in your life. And I'm going to keep banging on that distinction. You are not bad if you're hyper-specific. You're not unlucky necessarily if you're hyper-specific. But if you want more spontaneous moments to arise, these are the characteristics of people who have that particular phenomena in their life. If you want more of it, adopt these. If you don't, fine. It's your choice. Does that make sense? Okay? It's all about choice. As a neurolinguistic programmer, my job is not, one of the primary presuppositions of NLP is that there is no failure, there's only feedback. All behaviors have a positive intent. The person's never wrong. The behavior's never wrong. It's just a question of, is the behavior generating the result that's appropriate, that's desirable? The value of the person is held constant. As a neurolinguistic programmer, that's the attitude that we move through. It's just the behaviors and whether they're useful for the situation, right? If you're in a situation or a career path that requires you to be hyper-specific and plan things out, then that's appropriate, right? If you want more luck in your life, this is appropriate. Does that make sense? Okay. They go for the fortuitous moments that are not put off by a couple of setbacks along the way. So they may see an opportunity, they go for it, they hit a couple of setbacks, they don't quit. They say, okay, well, there's a snag in the road, I'll just keep going and see what happens. Right? I do this all the time. I piss people off. I just keep going. So more future-oriented rather than past-oriented. Any questions on the be kind to themselves? Because this is one that I really see a lot of. When you have stuff in your identity level that's coming back to haunt you, this is one of them. The perfectionist side of you, that's the part of you that's beating you up, whether you're conscious of it or not. Okay? They're extroverted. And I always go, oh, I'm an introvert, I'm fucked. Right? No, you're not. Let me explain what they mean by extroverted. Okay? This is the next one. Okay? Is this useful? Okay. They have a much more outgoing personality. And by the way, I am a massive introvert. I hate people. When I'm not out amongst the group, and doing what I do, I'm in my cave. I'm in my cave. Have a much more outgoing personality. They seek more opportunities for social contacts as opposed to opportunities for solitude. Everybody in this room would qualify because you came out tonight to be amongst somebody else, right? They reach out to the world, so the world reaches out to them. You can't be a lucky person locked in a room. You understand that? The more outreach you create, the more opportunities you draw. So this is one of the things that they've discovered about people who have a higher correspondence of serendipitous events. Luck, lucky breaks and connections and things like that. They reach out to people, right? It doesn't mean they become best friends with everyone, okay? A lucky person's direct attention toward the external environment. You can be inside your own head and still be relatively lucky, but when the going gets tough, you're more in the moment than you are in your head. Average and unlucky people tend to direct the attention of their world internally. Right? They're in their head making movies instead of paying attention to what's going on outside. When we talk about our 3 magic questions and moving and going up to talk to somebody, we talk about their direction of attention, that the average human being can be in a constellation of one of several states. Their attention can either be associated or dissociated. It can be directed inward or it can be directed outward. So at any given moment, your attention can be focused outside of yourself and being fully in the moment, which is desirable. It can be disconnected and internal, which means I'm in my head making pictures, Or it can be associated internal, which means I'm in my head, but I'm living a movie. I'm living it first person, right? But I'm still inside. In terms of creating attraction, connection, this is the one we need. External, I'm sorry. External associated. We need to be out of our heads and into the world and interacting with people. This is something that all naturally lucky people embody, and they have a higher proportion of it in their personality, in their makeup. Okay?
Can you explain that one a little more?
Which one?
When you're going through-
Okay. Remember that picture we made of the good feeling? Remember that? Okay, close your eyes, look at your picture. As you look at your picture, go ahead. You know, I'll do this.
Very beginning.
Yeah, just go back to the happy, whatever. Make it nice and big so you can see it. Go back into your picture. I want you to look at something very specific in the picture. Are you seeing yourself in the picture, or are you seeing it through your own eyes? If you're seeing yourself in the picture, step into it as if you're seeing it through your own eyes and notice how that changes your experience. Right? You ever play a video game? First person versus third person? Okay. You ever seen yourself on television? Okay. Can you imagine seeing yourself through the eyes of the person in the television? There she goes. Right? That's the difference between associated and dissociated. That has a direct correlation to identification. The more associated into an experience you become, in other words, seeing it as if it's happening through your own eyes, the more identified you tend to become with it. Yes?
It kind of feels like you're embodying
Yep.
when you step into it versus...
That's exactly right. And that whole conceptual internal experience can actually be modulated by working with those pictures out here. It's really cool, but again, not where we're going. In other meetups, we'll talk about that. But remember, identification and association are very, very similar. Okay? When I'm external associated, it means I'm not like a first responder where there's a fire going on and I'm just kind of disconnected from everything, even though I'm outside and I'm observing things. I'm in the moment, like when you're in love with somebody you really love and you just want to be with, right? You're just in that moment as opposed to on the outside watching yourself. Right? Well, again, it's not whatever drives the dissociation it doesn't matter. But I want you to understand the perceptual position. Does that help you? Okay. The best place for us to be when we want to connect with another human being is external associated. We want to be out of our head and into the world and not making a lot of value judgments or being just kind of like monitoring the interaction. Right? Yes.
One thing about identity, so you're always changing your identity?
Your identity changes as your context changes. Yeah. You don't have a steady state identity necessarily, right? And because human beings are trans machines and we move in and out of these perceptual positions and these filters so fluidly and so rapidly, we never realize it until somebody calls our attention to it, right? The emotional refractory period, you don't realize, you don't get a 2-minute warning that you're about to be pissed off, right? You don't have those little buzz, danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger, you're about to get pissed off. No. You go into the state, you have the experience, and then realize you're pissed off. The body shifts first. Right? So in my persuasion and influence classes, we teach you how to influence the body through your body. And then everything changes and people just make decisions you want them to make automatically. Yes?
So the internal, was that the one where you're actually in it, or is the external?
Internal means your direction of attention is inside your own head.
Okay.
When we talk about associated versus dissociated, what we're talking about is, am I seeing it as if it's through my own eyes, or am I watching myself going through some motions?
So I get that, but I'm not, what's this distinction between the internal and the external?
Okay, so you're seeing me right now. Close your eyes and imagine me. Now you're in your own head. Now you're internal.
Okay.
So you can tell the difference between the external and internal, right?
Yeah,
Because we have special places for people who can't do that. And meds, right? But that's what I mean. When you're in your head making a picture, whether you're seeing yourself through your own eyes or watching yourself on a screen, that's internal. The direction of your attention is internal, right? When it's out here, when I'm looking at this gentleman or this young lady or this gentleman, and I'm just in the moment with them, I'm external and I'm associated, right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's important. Sometimes I use jargon and things like that. We need to understand things, right? Perceptual filters zero in on elements, on these elements. That's where I'm at. Oh, I didn't read this yet. Extroverted. Extroverts have a much more outgoing personality. They seek more opportunities for social contacts as opposed to opportunities for solitude. Once again, they reach out to the world so the world reaches out to them. That's a very important statement. It's a very important statement functionally for what we're going for, right? An average or unlucky person directs their attention to their internal world. Now, just because you're average doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that if you're more external, you'll have a higher level of lucky things happen than people who aren't, right? Perceptual filters zero in on these elements. Lucky people will perceive and act upon chance encounters in the environment that unlucky people or average people will not. So, once again, as these events, these opportunities come up, they'll go for it. Ready, fire, aim. Right? And they'll stay on that path until it's either proven not to bear fruit or something interesting happens. You ever find yourself like doing something and then something completely like threatens to derail you, but you keep moving forward anyway, and then something better happens as a result of it? That's what lucky people do. That's the mindset. That's the filter that's in place. Okay? And if you have at least 2 or 3 episodes of that in your life, we can use that. That becomes a resource because it's built out of VAK associations, which means it's recorded in the neurology as a program to run, which means understanding how the code works, we can make it bigger and more operational. See how it all circles back to that whole VAK thing? If you can recall a memory or a resource or an experience that you've had, you can use that, build it, and install it as a permanent or more powerful filter in your life. Everything that you have is a potential resource. Nothing is wasted. Nothing. Once you understand VAK. How to point to it and how to play with it. Get it? Okay. So that's extroverted. And that's where we're at in terms of the characteristics. You have identity. They identify themselves as lucky people. They take action. They're open-minded. They're specifically vague. They're not hyper-specific. Okay? They're kind to themselves. They don't beat themselves up every time they make a mistake or they forget to dot an I or cross a T. Right? And they're extroverted. They seek social opportunities. Now, when they seek social opportunities, it may never go any further than a Facebook friending. But they'll click the like button or they'll click the friends button and expand that network because you never know. Some of the most powerful connections I ever made happened by chance on Facebook, of all places. All right? The natural impetus of the neurology is to connect. Every nerve in your body wants to connect with every other nerve. If our neurology is driven that way, what do you think our behaviors do? You're in this room because of a desire to connect. For mutual interest, but still connecting. Which automatically means you're going to be more lucky. I guarantee you're going to be far more luckier for coming out tonight than the people who didn't. I know that already. Right? Serendipitous people are more fearless. They tend to be courageous about trying new things. Instead of worrying about something that could go wrong, they think, isn't that interesting? I'd like to give that a try. Contrast that with only focusing on the good things that could happen. Right? Good outcomes increase self-sufficiency. This again goes back to the action taker's personality profile. I began with it, I'm going to end with it because if we get nothing else out of tonight, it's this. They perpetuate and reinforce the belief that they are competent and more capable of accomplishing whatever they set out to do. They tend to be more competent, confident, and take more risks. Okay? Lucky people are risk takers. Okay? They seize opportunity wherever they perceive it. Wherever they perceive it. What controls your perception? Your filters. Which is analogous to what? Your feelings, your frequencies, right? They're willing to take more risks. They quickly brush off disappointments and move on to the next opportunity. Action takers by nature tend to be more happy because they have a constant influx of new stimulation experiences and activities to their daily life. Get out and get new experiences. Have fun with this, right? That's why we start with being playful, having fun, being curious. These are driver states. These are things that move us forward. They move the neurology forward, okay? They deliberately do new things that automatically boost contentedness. That doesn't mean sitting on the couch eating Haagen-Dazs all day long, right? I know. It's okay once in a while. Every hour or so, I guess. Oh, shit. If an opportunity is available, they'll usually follow it. They almost never act with 100% certainty. 85 is good enough. Right? Better than 50%? That's a little challenging, but maybe. Right? They almost never act with 100% certainty. If you wait until all negative emotions disappear, you'll never take action. Oh, baby, this is so true. I've got people who are perpetual shit fixers. Right? They get into this treadmill of looking for the next thing to fix. Because they think that if they just fix enough stuff, everything will get easy. No. There's a difference between fixing something that's holding you back and looking for something that keeps you from taking action. Right? My advice to those of you who are professional shit fixers, stop. Start doing the actions and activities that lead towards positive, measurable results. And then when a block comes up, deal with it. Because there's this phenomenon that's a little known phenomena in our industry. We call it pathological trance. Whereas we're so consumed with finding more shit to fix that that's all we ever do, and we never get fixed. We never take the actions that move our life forward. Right? Stop looking for shit to fix and start taking action in your life. And when shit comes up, shit being a technical term, mind you, then deal with it. Right? Deal with it. I say that because I'm seeing it a lot lately. A lot of people are coming to me for stuff, and they keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. Based on the latest reports from the trauma world, the average human being is carrying millions of years of repressed trauma in their neurology and in their DNA. Trust me, you will not run out of shit to fix. But that will not put food on your table. It will not add an extra zero or decimal point to your bank account. Taking action in the world will. Right? Focus on the things that are holding you back and stop looking for things that might be holding you back. You understand the distinction? Okay? When truly uncertain about a decision, they ask themselves, this is a strategy, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? How likely is that particular situation to really happen? Notice the difference now. A lot of us ask, what's the worst could happen? We come up with some shit. You ever notice that? It's because the human neurology, the human brain, is the world's most comprehensive information processing system on the planet, a question answering mechanism on the planet, short of the planet itself. Your neurology must seek to answer any question you put to it, regardless of how stupid the question is. Right? And then people have this thing called the blame frame. You may have heard people go this, why does this always happen to me? And the neurology goes, oh, he wants a list. I submit, ladies and gentlemen, that the quality of your life will be guided and directed by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Because your neurology can't not answer it. But just like Google, how you phrase the question biases the answer that you get. Asking yourself, why this shit always happens to me, is a far less useful question than how can I make sure this shit never happens again? Or how can I do better? Or what can I get instead? Same situation, different direction. Little things make a big difference. Right? They weigh the short-term cost versus the long-term benefits. Right? I have stories on this one, but we'll never get to the next piece. We're done at 10, right? 10:30, 10 o'clock. I always get that. Okay? You guys having fun? Is this useful information? Yes. Okay? So let's learn how to cook the rice, shall we? Okay. First and foremost, we got to create the resources. We got to build our resources, right? So I'm going to diagram this process out. This is going to be a process, a combination, a little bit of shit clearing, and a whole lot of upgrading. We're going to use our imagination. We're going to use our body. We're going to use our critical faculty, the part of us that analyzes, but we're going to use it appropriately. Okay? So first and foremost, you have resources, right? Oops, I just killed the coffee cup. That's all right. So we have an identity level issue, right? So 2 resources. I want you to imagine somebody who is really friggin' lucky. Somebody you know that's just off the charts lucky. You? All right. Imagine her. Off the charts lucky, right? I want you to close your eyes, take a deep breath in. Let that breath out with a sigh. Deeper and deeper with every breath you take and every beat of your heart. All I want you to do is relax and let go. Listen to the sound of my voice. Any sounds you hear other than the sounds of my voice are simply the sounds of our natural environment. They're not going to disturb you or distract you in any way. In fact, they're going to remind you to relax. Realizing no matter how far inside you travel, no matter how deep inside you go, you'll always be able to hear my words and follow my instructions and obey my commands. Not because I'm any big authority figure or because I'm some kind of high-level hypnotist or something like that, but because you realize that everything I say and everything I do is for you. To give you the life you want, the way you want it, by your standards and your definitions. Now what I'd like you to do is imagine, if you would, the safest place you've ever been. Maybe it's a place that existed when you were growing up. Maybe it's a place that exists only in your mind. I had a client out in London. Her idea of a safe place, her safe place was actually a nuclear fallout shelter 5 miles below the surface of the earth, surrounded in cement and concrete, and there was only enough room in it for her. So when I say your safe place, it can be anything. Some people are very spiritual, some people are very transpersonal, and they like to be surrounded by their spirit guides and their guardian angels and their animal totems. Some people like to lock themselves in a bank vault. Some people have a room they grew up in, that when they were in that room, sealed away from the world, everything was perfect. Other people have a place out in nature, a place where they go, where they know they're enough, where they're completely safe, all their needs are met, where they're fully accepted in every way. Now, because we are in a group, my speaking may be a little faster or slower at times than your processing speed, and that's okay, because I want you to move through these processes together with me, only at your natural speed, only at your natural pace, allowing yourself to just enjoy the processes, to be fully integrated. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to move into your safe place. I'd like you to see what you saw and hear what you heard and feel what you felt. And when you're there, I want you to just nod your head to let me know. Perfect. Now when you're in your safe place, that place where everything is taken care of, everything is protected, there's a feeling that you get that lets you know you're there. And I want you to notice that there's a place in your body where that feeling starts, where that feeling grows and emanates from. And if you were to just point to it, where would you be pointing? That's right. And as you point to that place, I want you to notice that there's a color connected to that feeling. What might that color be? And as you notice that color, I'd like you to use that amazing imagination of yours. And I'd like you to imagine a huge ball of that feeling, of that energy floating above your head. And I want you to breathe that color through your entire body. From the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Deeper and deeper with every breath you take and every beat of your heart. Like somebody turned on the tap and just left it running. As you breathe it through your mind and body, I want you to scan your body. I want you to notice if any places of pain, tightness, worry, fear, tension, anxiety, anything that's less than comfortable. And breathe more of that color through those areas. And notice what happens. And just keep breathing. Letting your mind and color and feeling and energy flow through those areas. Just like that. And then what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to just allow, if you would, another part of your mind, another part of your consciousness to float up out of your physical body and into that sphere, into that colored energy. Merging with it. Like a drop of water merges back into the ocean from which it came. Feeling a connection, a reconnection, if you will, to something much greater, much larger, much more powerful than yourself. Letting all the filters of who you are and what you should have dissolve away into that energy, that source of abundance. That place we call source. In whatever way that means to you. And let those wonderful feelings of connection and intimacy and safety flow. Some people imagine, like if you could ever imagine the warmest, most wonderful, most soothing bath you've ever taken. You just kind of sit back and dissolve your body into that wonderful warm water. You can feel yourself resolving into that energy, into that field, into that vibration and the colors. And as you pass deeper and deeper into it, you may eventually find yourself passing through to the other side. And when you do, you may find yourself in a very interesting place. A place that in the world, according to David, we call the gray room. Now, your room may not be gray. It may be some other awesome color. Or you may just stay in this safe space and do the processes together that we're talking about. But understand that where you're at and the feelings moving through your body have an infinite, ever-expanding quality to them. That for as long as your heart continues to beat and your lungs continue to breathe, this feeling, this energy, these qualities and characteristics will go with you, supporting you, strengthening you, healing you. And things you understand, ways you understand and remember, and ways that you unconsciously understand and remember. So just allow that process to take place. However your body responds to these energies is perfectly okay. Some people laugh, some people yawn, some people cry, some people tear up, some people feel warmth, some people feel coolness, some people tingle. It doesn't really matter. How your body expresses these things is entirely up to you. As we began this process, we talked about remembering or creating a picture in your mind of somebody who was extraordinarily lucky, who embodied that pure serendipitous energy that you want more of in your life. And I want you to call up that representation in your mind of this person, or maybe a group of people. And I want you to imagine that you could float up out of your physical body and float down into theirs. See the world through their eyes. Feel the world through their body. Understand themselves, the world, and everyone in it, the way they do. As this person, look in the mirror and notice what thoughts and ideas and feelings come up. How do they feel about themselves? How do they perceive their perceptions, their sense of worth, their ability to identify as being somebody very, very fortunate, who attracts all the best experiences and circumstances into their life? Notice how they move through the world taking action, how they become aware of perceptions and opportunities, and they stick to it. They ready, fire, aim. Notice how kind they are to themselves, how they treat themselves on the inside. That's right. Notice how they reach out. They look for opportunities to engage, to connect. How they're never too specific about the things they go for. And just live a week or two in that life. Maybe a month. Go where they go. Do what they do. Understand themselves, the world, and everyone in it as they do. And I want you to notice that after a certain interval, a feeling will start to arise within you that's different, that's unique compared to the old self you used to recognize. And that perhaps there's a place in your body where that feeling starts. And you may notice that there's a color or a series of colors connected to that feeling. What might those colors be? I want you to imagine breathing all of those colors through your entire physical body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Noticing what happens in your body as you breathe those frequencies through every level of your mind and every level of your body. Scan your body. Notice any places of tightness or tension or worry, fear, anxiety, anything that's not in harmony with this new set of frequencies, and breathe more of this energy through those areas and notice what happens. Just observe the process. Let your neurology and the filters that govern what you believe and how you move through the world begin to change and modify, to upgrade, if you will, the apps inside of you. And imagine, if you would, an alternate reality, an alternate universe where everything's allowed. And I want you to imagine that movie as yourself now, having all of these qualities and all of these attributes. And I want you to go as far back in your memory as you can, as you're willing to go. When you reach that point far back in your memory, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Just answer with your first impression. Are you inside or outside? Alone or with people? Daytime or nighttime? Look at your hands in that scene. Are they big person hands? Little person hands? Are they somewhere in between? Whatever you see is perfectly okay. But I'd like you to step into that scene as the you of today, equipped, informed, educated, with all the qualities, connections, perceptual filters, and attributes of a naturally lucky person. I want you to take that younger version of yourself by the hand and lead him out of that moment. Give him a big old hug and tell him, hey buddy, I'm you from the future. And where I come from, the technology exists to come back from the future to change the past. And that's exactly what we're going to do. I want you to give that version of yourself the biggest, most loving, most all-accepting, all-encompassing hug ever. Download into that version of yourself everything he or she will ever need to know, believe, feel, understand to be better than ever, to be awesome in every way. And most importantly, to let them know that everything they've experienced up to this point or would have experienced from this timeline is done, over. That you're going to take them someplace even cooler, even better. And then I want you to look that version of yourself in the eyes and ask it one special question. What would make them the happiest little camper on the planet right now? Everything's allowed. See, I had one little girl, all she wanted was ice cream and hugs. So we gave her a special kind of ice cream. She could eat as much as she wants for as long as she wants, never lose a tooth, never get sick, never gain a pound. And all the hugs she could handle for all time. Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, when I say everything's allowed, I mean everything. So ask him or her, what would make them the happiest little camper on the planet right now? And then I want you to make that alternate reality movie. I want you to make it as big as a drive-in or IMAX movie theater screen. I want you to turn up the colors. I want you to turn up the clarity. I want you to make it fully identified. Step into it. Turn up the sounds, the taste, the smells, the feelings. Make it vivid in every conceivable way. And then I want you to watch it. Live it. Not once, not twice, but over and over and over again. Hundreds of times at the speed of thought, With each repetition, I want you to make it 10 times stronger, 10 times more vivid, 10 times more real, 10 times more compelling than ever before, until it becomes more real than any experience you've ever had, until it overwrites every experience you've ever had. And then it just keeps getting stronger. And as you watch that new alternate reality movie, I want you to notice there's a place in your body where that feeling starts, where it spreads to. And with each repetition, with each pass through that movie, that energy begins to grow. It begins to double in speed, double in force, double in magnitude, getting stronger and stronger and stronger until it fills up your entire body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And then it just keeps getting stronger until your body can no longer contain all that energy. It begins to stream out of your body in an ever-expanding, infinite, unlimited supply, forming a brilliant colored frame around that alternate reality movie that you've created and all the goodness inside of it. And when you're ready, I want you to reach out with both your hands. I want you to grab that frame and that new alternate reality movie inside of it. I want you to lift it over your head, expand it to fill the universe, and pull it down through your entire body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, over and over and over again. Each time you do, I want you to notice, as you pass it through your body, any places in your body that are not in harmony with this new set of frequencies, this new set of instructions. Notice what begins to happen to them as every part of your body starts to synchronize, to harmonize, to upgrade and install new information, new perceptual filters, new ways of moving through the world, seeing yourself, the world, and everyone in it, and just keep going until it's impossible to turn off in every way. That's right. And build in all those attributes, all of those qualities that lead to being so, so lucky. That's right. Many people, when these processes take place, experience all kinds of physical sensations. Some people laugh, some people yawn, some people cry, some people tear up, some people tingle, some people sweat. It's okay. That's right. When you know you've got that, I want you to imagine that you could float down into your history as this new version of you, and notice how all of your memories and all of your experiences begin to change moving forward. I want you to just move forward through all of your memories now, noticing how they change, how they transform. Every now and then stop and look back on some of those experiences now that they're different, and notice what you've learned. And then move forward again. And then again, till you reach the present moment. And look back and notice what's different. Notice how you've changed. Till this is the only way you can remember it. When you know you got that, breathe those colors through your entire body again and notice what happens now. That's right. You're doing great. When you know you've got that, I want you to float up out of your physical body once again. Move forward in time, 1 week into the future. 1 week from October 17th, 2016. Float down into that version of yourself. See the world through that person's eyes. Feel the world through your body. Understand yourself, the world, and everyone in it as this new person. Tell yourself about it. Describe it to yourself. And notice any changes. Notice any qualities, characteristics, or attributes that you have more of, that you like more. And the feelings connected to those. And the colors connected to those feelings. And breathe them through your entire body. Anchor them in so fully, so completely that they're impossible to turn off. And then float up, taking all of those qualities, characteristics, and attributes with you. Float another month into the future. 1 month and 7 days from October 17th, 2016. Float down into that version of yourself. And notice what that's like. Live a day or two there. Live a week there. Heck, go for the gold. Let that person's accomplishments become your accomplishments. Their achievements, your achievements. Their discoveries, ahas, epiphanies, oh my gods, your ahas, discoveries, epiphanies, and oh my gods. And then look back. Look back at the you of October 17th, 2016, and notice what's changed. And if you could go back, step back through that wormhole of time, and download into that young version of yourself, there on October 17th, 2016, everything he or she would ever need to know, believe, feel, or understand to be as awesome as you are in this future right now. What would you download into them? What would you give them? What would you share with them? What would they see, feel, hear, smell, taste? When you know what that is. Stepping back as that future self to October 17th, 2017, give that younger version of yourself the best hug ever. The I love you hug. The hug that lets them know that for as long as their heart continues to beat and their lungs continue to breathe, you're always going to be there. To love them, to accept them, to remind them that they're always enough. To hold their hand when there's nobody else. To give them that hug they need when there's nobody else to do that. To remind them of all the very best things about themselves in a voice that they can always trust, a voice that they can always believe, a voice that speaks 10 times louder than any other voice, that drowns out every other voice. So that no matter where you go or what you do, for as long as your heart continues to beat and your lungs continue to breathe, you'll always know. You're always loved. You're always enough. You're always accepted, protected, lucky. And you're never, ever, ever alone. Breathe all of the colors from all the transformations you've acquired through both of you. Feel the two of you merging together, becoming the United States of you. Anchor all of those colors, all of those frequencies in so fully, so completely, that they're impossible to turn off. And when you know you've got that, try to turn them off and notice what happens instead. Reach out, grab a hold of that picture, pass it through your entire body. Feel the energies and the frequencies within you amplifying, becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. Let all that processing take place. Each night while you sleep and while you dream, your neurology will make all the necessary changes, create new neurological connections, change the perceptual filters in your mind, body, and spirit, so that each morning upon awakening you'll see the world through new eyes. Experience the world with all of these qualities and characteristics and attributes that we've discussed and explored. More and more prevalent, more and more dominant in every level of your neurology, mind, body, and soul, only in the ways that give you the life you want, the way you want it, by your standards and your definitions. In a moment, not yet, but in just a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. When I reach the number 5, you'll emerge from this process, bringing all of these transformations, revelations, and educations with you, embodying them in all the ways that make your life better, taking the appropriate actions at the right moment, at the right time, irresistibly, and sticking to it. Number 1, feel yourself returning to this place we call reality, bringing with you a brand new reality, ladies and gentlemen. A reality where you've learned something powerful. You've explored the magic of your nervous system. An exploration that will only continue to gain more power in your life as long as you're willing to play and explore and point to where you feel it. Number 2, all of my suggestions from me to you, from you to your very own other than conscious mind are now 10 times more powerful, 10 times more permanent, 10 times more desirable, locked in, embraced, held on to by that part of your neurology, mind, body, and soul that most wants, desires, can implement, facilitate, and express these changes in all the ways that make your life better by your standards and your definitions. Number 3, always at least 3 ways to overcome any situation, obstacle, or circumstance that you may face. Always at least 3 solutions to any problem you need to solve, and your other than conscious mind will now easily, effortlessly, and automatically generate those solutions in the quickest, easiest, most effective way for the good of yourself and all concerned. Number 4, because it's all for you, my friends. You've made the journey. You've made the investment. You've followed the instructions. You've obeyed the commands. You've tested the results. You've absolutely earned the rewards and the right to keep them. On the next count, you can emerge from this state only at the rate and speed that you know you've got it. Only at the rate and speed that every level of your neurology, mind, body, and soul accepts, understands, realizes, and comprehends. You've got this. Embracing them, embodying them, expressing these traits, qualities, and characteristics in all the ways that give you the life you want, the way you want it, by your standards and definitions. Head clear, mind clear, thinking and acting with calm self-assurance, feeling good all over, glad to be alive, ready to thrive. Number 5, take your time, come on back, notice how good you feel. If you had a good time, please post good things to the meetup. If you didn't, post to somebody else's. If you haven't scheduled your consult, please see Linda before you go. I'll be hanging out. Thank you so much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. What's that?
Do you have all the courses you teach on your website?
Linda actually has a list at the back there, but there will be an events calendar posted on my website in the next 24 hours. If you go to nlppower.com/events, there will be a list. Let me put that on the page for you. nlppower.com/events.
You said to Mastermind.
Yeah. For those of you who want, I run a group. It's called the NLP Power Mastermind. I didn't really get a chance to talk about this, but people were asking about it. It's a skill building group. It's a paid group. It's not for free. But basically we get together on the third Saturday of every month, and it's your applications, my skill set, and everything's allowed. Everything from selling and sales to attraction and energy work and manifesting and all of these things. And basically the way it works is I literally go around the room and I say, kind of like we did today, what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? And I write, you give me a list of the things you want to work on, I write them on the board, and I look at what's written on the board, I write down all the connecting threads, and I generate the lesson plan right on the spot, and for the next 4 hours, 24 hours, Jesus, I got to come out of trance, right? Next 4 hours, I literally drill you on those skills until you can do them in your sleep. It is not a certification track. You will not get certified in NLP. What you will get is a real-world skill that you can go out and apply the same day. Yeah, the NLP Power Mastermind. Yeah, my handwriting sucks.
How much does?
It's $247 a month. It's not like a big lump sum thing. It's done almost like a subscription, but without a contract. So literally, if you want to join, you can take the first one for free and see if it's something you like.
How many times a month?
It's once a month for 4 hours, and it's a small semi-private group, and everything's allowed. $247 a month. It's getting too big, so I had to raise the price. But basically, you can go for 1 month or you can go for 12 months. There's no like 12-month commitment. I set it up like a subscription on PayPal. So basically, I'll send you a link, and it'll auto-renew every month, and you just show up. Now, we videotape every single mastermind session, and we archive those on the NLP Power website, and all mastermind members have complete access to all 6 years of Mastermind video because we've been running it continuously since 2010. It is the longest running NLP mentoring group that I know of.
Different topic every month?
Whatever you want. Every month is different because the people in the room are different. So there'll be a lot of repetition, but there will also be a lot of new stuff because everybody has a different outcome. It's literally, there is no curriculum until the people walk in the room.
So let's say if I want to go the first one and check it out, how do we go about it?
Basically, you let me know you want to come.
Talk to Linda.
Talk to Linda, and she'll make a note, and I'll put you on our mailing list for that. It's a separate mailing list. And the next one we just had it Sunday, so the next one will be November, third Saturday in November, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at my clinic in Solana Beach. You'll come in, and I'll literally ask you, what do you want to learn today? What do you want to learn?
Well, what do we want to change about ourselves?
Doesn't matter. It could be something you want to change. It could be a skill set you want to learn. Anything. If it's in my lexicon, I'll teach you how to do it. It's not a certification track, so you're not going to come out there with a pretty certificate for your wall. You're going to come out with a real-world skill that you can go out and do something right then and there. And that's why people like it. They don't have to sit there and learn a lot of irrelevant crap or information. It's all relevant, it's all drill-based, and you're going to get FaceTime with me for 4 solid hours, and I make sure you know how to do this shit before you leave. So if that's something that appeals to you, you're more than welcome to come and check us out. Just let Linda know you want to come. I'll put you on the mailing list for the next one. As a matter of fact, I just finished the video. I just downloaded the video from last night's. What I'll do, for those of you who want to see kind of what it's like, I'll put that video in a special page on the NLP Power website. You'll also have to let Linda give your email address because I can't let that out to the public because that's premium content. But you'll see that we had like 9-10 people in that room, and I had like 27 different things that I had to create a curriculum for that nailed everything. So you'll see massive belief change. You'll see one guy go from this posture to this posture because he's been 20 years like this, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, right? I mean, it was just really some really cool stuff, very relevant to what you've got here today. But again, I only mention it because people were asking me about it. I would normally just not even mention it. But if people want to get in on it, there is no long-term contracts or anything like that. Try it out, see if it's something that fits with you, and if it fits within your, where you want to go, what you want to do, you're more than welcome to stay with us as long as you like. But like I said, if you have a good time tonight, post good things to the meetup. If not, keep your fucking mouth shut. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Talk to you soon.